This video series has kind of buried the lead, as the most obvious part of Breath of the Wild that makes it such a special game is its open world. This version of Hyrule is an interconnected puzzle of environments ranging from open fields to snow-covered mountains to burn-you-alive volcanoes to searing hot deserts to lush waterworlds. These are all Zelda series staples, but there is something about having them all connected like this with no load times that makes them feel magical. Unlike most other open-world games, Breath of the Wild gives me a sense of wonder as I explored it. This is counter to games like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry open-world games, which give you a map with hundreds of markers all over it, revealing most of the world's secrets. Instead, Breath of the Wild has a very sparse map that initially only gives you basic topographical information about the world. You can kind of make out elevation changes, but that's really it. And even that information is hidden away for most of the map until you start climbing towers to reveal more of it. But unlike all of those other Ubisoft games that reveal the locations of side quests and collectibles when you scale one of their towers, all this does in Breath of the Wild is reveal more empty map. You can see how the world is laid out a bit better, but you'll get more benefit from scoping out the new area from atop the tower with your telescope. You'll use the telescope to place a few markers on interesting-looking locations, and then go off to explore. The responsibility is put on you, the player, to fill out the map. It's not something the game is going to just do for you. The meaningful difference this makes is that the world has a sense of mystery to it. You never know what's going to be around the next bend or over the next hill. The world is massive and takes a long time to navigate, especially early on when you can't glide very far or get a horse to ride those long distances. But the adventure is never boring because things will simply pop up in the world to do. There are always enemies to fight, either lone wolves who you can fell pretty easily, groups of enemies that you can take on all at once, or even menacing foes who are big, bad, and harder than any of the bosses you'll actually fight in the game. Seriously, it is a thrill to be casually wandering through a field, only to have the ground start shaking beneath you, and you turn around to see a giant rock monster ready to battle out of nowhere. Beyond fighting, the game has plenty of other things for you to do as well. The main event in this world is hunting down shrines, which are essentially puzzle rooms of varying complexities that test your skill and brains in the game's mechanics. There are 120 of these shrines in the world, and they reward you with shrine orbs, which can be traded in for your choice of additional health or stamina. Both of these stats are essential to progressing through the game, so you have a serious incentive to find these shrines and overcome their challenges. They also become warp points, so the more shrines you find means it will be easier to travel around the world going forward. All of these things incentivize you to proactively look for these. If you're feeling stuck on a certain level, you're going to want to go shrine hunting. Find some shrines so you can earn some orbs, which you can turn into health or stamina or whatever you need at the moment. These shrines are kind of controversial, as some people don't seem to like them that much, but I think they're a lot of fun. Most of these shrines will test your ability to use the special powers you have to manipulate the environment in interesting ways. You have skills that let you freeze water, materialize bombs, control metal objects, and stop objects in their tracks for a few seconds. Each shrine will make you use at least one of these in a way you might not have thought of before, and they can help inspire you to do these sorts of things in the main game world as well. Some shrines are super simple, and you'll get through them in seconds, and others are longer and more complicated, and might have you stumped for a while. It's a good mix, and I find them to be really satisfying. A few shrines are not even puzzles at all, and the game calls these shrines tests of strength. And these will pit you against a single robotic enemy who will come at you with swords, shields, an assortment of lasers, and a spinning attack that can knock you out in a moment if you're not careful. These range from simple to incredibly hard, and they really help you learn the dodge and block mechanics of combat that make you a better fighter overall. Beyond the shrines, there are tons of things to do in the world. It's hard to describe just how much there is, so here's a map that IGN created that shows all of the points of interest in the world. Okay, have you digested that? This is an absolutely ridiculous amount of stuff to do. The 120 shrines are the tip of the iceberg here. You also have 900 Korok seeds to find, dozens of side quests, 4 divine beasts, 12 memory locations, 16 towns, 15 towers, more than a dozen ranches, close to 100 mini-bosses, and more to do. When you put all this on a map, it looks insane, and the game would be overwhelming if it showed you all of this, but it's to the game's credit that all of this needs to be discovered on your own. This avoids the feeling of being overwhelmed that lots of players report when playing open-world games, where the map just has so much to do, there's so many markers, that they struggle to figure out what they actually want to do or what they should do. But since you discover basically all of this organically in the game world, the density of stuff that's here means that as you explore the world, you never feel bored. There's always something you're going to stumble upon to do, and you can choose to interact with it or not. And these maps don't account for other things, like fun physics moments the game sets up for you. For example, you might walk up to a pile of boulders at the top of a big hill, you nudge one of them and watch the whole mess of boulders tumble down the mountainside. Or there was a time that I randomly stumbled upon an apple orchard. I threw a bomb into the middle to shake the trees, and then proceeded to pick up well over 100 apples all at once. It was super cool and a really fun discovery that felt all the more rewarding because I just found it. I didn't have a map marker that told me to go here if I wanted to ever get OP on apples. There are simply too many things in Breath of the Wild to talk about at once, and so I'm not going to get into them here, but the game's beautiful artwork and use of shapes and color and patterns to guide the player around are stunningly excellent. The combat is simple enough to learn quickly, but has enough depth to keep things interesting even late into the game. The sense of scale in everything from the world in general to the divine beasts makes this game feel huge and is an impressive showcase for the Nintendo Switch. The music, which is very subdued for a Zelda game, is actually tailored perfectly to the pacing and needs of this specific game. And it just goes on from there. I truly adore this game, and as the title of this series suggests, I really think it is an absolutely brilliant video game that bravely ventured into unknown territory for the series and came out with a masterpiece. The team at Nintendo deserves unending love for this title, and I hope that you give it to them by buying the game, telling your friends to buy the game, tell your enemies to buy the game. Let them know on Twitter that you adore their work, and get ready to do it all again when Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, whenever that is. Thank you so much for watching this series, and I will see you here next time on Birch Tree Gaming.